I change your bum life. You fight me, it's a celebration.
I would beat you.
When you sign to fight me, it's a celebration. You ring back home, you ring your wife. Baby, we done it. We're rich, baby. Conor McGregor made us rich. Break out the red panties.
Yo, 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 welcome back to the fifth round. Is always your boy, Stephen Moustaris. And man, I know we're just literally like 4 days away removed from, the crazy fight card we just had in Orlando, the UFC Fight Night, where we watched Wonderboy Thompson and freaking Kevin Big Mouth Holland have one of the greatest main events of the year. It was on pace for one of the greatest fights of the year, especially after them first two rounds. But then still, it was just absolutely impressive, fun fucking fight night. Like, I think I've spoken about it 50 times now. It was like 20 household names. It was a big step up from what we've been getting for the fight nights. And, it's December 7th, I think, right now. I'm sitting here recording on Wednesday. And, we moved to this fight night this weekend. And it's our last main card of the year, our last pay-per-view, UFC 282. And, it's sitting here. I guess I'm a little upset that we don't have the Glover Teixeira and Yuri Prochazka rematch. I will be honest with that. But I think the reasoning, and I think this is one of the first times, Jesus, off the top of my head, this was one of the first times, if not the first time. I know on fight nights, they'll just cancel the main event and not give a shit, but it's rare that on a pay-per-view, especially a title fight, that we have two guys going up against each other. And usually one will get hurt or pull out. We've seen it happen. But 10 times out of 10 usually, whoever the opponent was or whoever the champion was, they usually stay in that lane and then they'll get a replacement, something like that. But this is one of the first times ever that they've thrown just two complete different people into ultimately the same fight, which is for the light heavyweight title. And, I really think that that's because I don't think this fight card's made for it. I honestly think this fight card, it was one of those ones that's like, it was kind of all around Paddy the Baddy Pimblett and our boys Bryce Mitchell. I really do, because the first fight I want to talk about is Bryce Mitchell, actually. So he's taking on Ilia whichever one you want to say, Topuria. And this man is an absolute dog, Ilia Topuria. I remember him. I guess I've watched all of his fights, to be honest. I don't miss a fight card, but like the one that really put me like on the boat with him, like as a fan, and like his first like standout performance was last year against Ryan Hall. When we all know Ryan Hall is one of the greatest BJJ artists out there, players out there, and especially in MMA. And we've seen this man heel hook anybody, literally do all the craziest shit in the world when it comes to BJJ. This dude, he'll do a flying triangle, flying armbar. It does not fucking matter. Flying guillotine. The Kimura rolls coming in, dude. He's going crazy. He's always doing the wildest shit, but his stand-up's terrible. And I just remember Ilia just staying away from him and just piecing him apart, picking him apart. And it was one of the more like impressive performances. It was awful on Ryan Hall's part, but I think a lot of people at the time were so focused on Ryan Hall that we didn't give Ilia his credit. And so, this fight right now for Bryce Mitchell is really fucking hard. And I know Bryce Mitchell right now, a lot of people love him. I remember him being in him in the spotlight right before he even got really big, because he took his balls off basically with that drill or whatever. I remember it being such a big thing all over the news. But this is the one thing with Bryce Mitchell. This is the scariest fight that he's ever had, and I think he can totally win it. Don't get me wrong. I think he can totally win this fight. I think he's fucking hungry. I was actually, even though Edson Barboza is old, I shouldn't say old, but he's old in MMA. He's old for fighting. He's been around for how long? He's had how many kickboxing fights? How many MMA fights? How many knockouts has he had? I do know he's knocked out a lot of people, but it was a big step up for Bryce Mitchell, because we haven't really seen him deal with the stand up too much. We've seen him get rocked in the UFC, and he's physically on the ground. The man is untouchable. A dude's gonna fucking destroy you. But for him to come out against Edson Barboza, and yeah, it's probably because Barboza was so like expecting the takedown so crazy. But man, Bryce Mitchell knocked Edson Barboza down 5 times. It felt like in that fight, knocked him out. One of the craziest fights you'll see. It was impressive as hell. And if we didn't see that fight before this fight, I'd be really, really worried. But the fact that we've seen that fight, we've seen what he can do stand up, it's getting way better. And I don't know, I think he can really get this done. And the one thing I got to give Bryce Mitchell absolute credit for is, we see it with the Sean O'Malley's, the Bryce Mitchells, hell, Paddy the Baddy, Pimblett. Like, we see these fighters come into the UFC that are, they skyrocket. They got the charisma. They got what gets the eye of us fans. Like, they can either walk the talk, or they talk the talk, or they do both. And 9 times out of 10, it's always them just being absolute amazing fighters. Like Sugar Sean O'Malley, stand up, everybody loves it. His color, his hair color, tattoos, the threes, the dribbling, everything that he does is huge. Paddy the Baddy, clearly being, from Ireland, a lot of people kind of gravitate towards him, or I guess not Ireland, but you know what I'm saying. He's technically, but English or something, Polish, or not Polish, but English and whatever. So it's got like a Connor vibe, the way he talks and the way that everybody loves him. His walkout's crazy, and Bryce Mitchell it's almost like his Habib style. It's like people love that. And it's so quick to get them thrown into, too far ahead. Like, I mean, we just saw it with Petr Yan. Sean O'Malley jumped from fighting, I don't want to say cans ever, because that division's so fucking nasty, but they are fighting people that, nobody really knows, people that they're 4-1 favorites on, and then for him to jump up to Petr Yan, absolute nuts. Same with Bryce Mitchell. This man does not want any easy fights. This dude literally was supposed to fight, what was it, Mavzar Evlov. That dude's a fucking monster. He was supposed to fight him a month ago, November 5th, and it got canceled. But that Mavzar Evlov guy, I think he's like 16-0. He's a fucking monster, bro. It's somebody you don't want to fight until you're a champion or you're a number one contender, that you kind of have to fight to get that belt. Like, this kid is just coming up in the ranks. I think he's ranked, but it's like he's still, above top 10. I think he's like 13, 14, something like that, but he's coming up so fast, and boy, that's one thing you got to give credit to, and I think that's a big reason I'm really riding with him on this fight, is the fact that he's not afraid to get into the firefights. He's not afraid of anything. This man wants the competition. He wants the smoke, and it's so fucking impressive. And I mean, I know a lot of people don't fuck with him for some of the shit he says on YouTube or whatever the hell he says in some of his interviews about flat earth and all these things, but dude, I don't give a fuck about that. Honestly, I kind of want my fighters to be crazy a little bit in their head and kind of talk about that crazy shit. So, because I mean, what if you're gonna talk just wild in interviews, then how are you gonna be in a fucking octagon when you're thinking your life's on the line? Like, honestly, anything can fucking happen. Anybody can take a vicious knockout. $1 Million Baby, the cage, your head can just hit the cage a little weird. It's anything could fucking happen, man. Anything could fucking happen. So yeah, technically you are fighting for your life. So, but that's a guy I want to ride with, and I do feel bad for Ilia Topuria, just because he's gonna be. You feel bad for him, but then you don't, because he is going to be the guy that nobody really looks at, even though he's the undefeated one, and Bryce Mitchell basically is, but he's 15-1. We get he's never lost in the UFC, but still, so many people are watching Bryce Mitchell right now that I'm not going to lie to you. I am kind of, I feel bad for Ilia, but this is where you don't feel bad for him, because now he's in the position that he can take all of Bryce Mitchell's limelight. It's kind of like when Chito Vera did I know to a lot of people that fight was kind of fluky, but I don't give a shit what anybody says. Yes, the perennial nerve, all that stuff, but like, you don't see Adesanya talking about that right now, and that just happened to him. You don't see it happen to Michael Chandler in a couple fights. I mean, Henry Cejudo came back, beat Demetrius Johnson. Like, regardless, yeah, that did play a role in it, but you can never say those elbows that Sean O'Malley took against Chito Vera weren't legitimate. But I get it. If his foot wasn't compromised, would he be in that situation? So, but still, Chito Vera took that limelight from Sean O'Malley, and he's ran with it. This man is doing the damn thing. So that's Ilia Topuria. That's honestly, as I'm talking it out right now, I think Ilia Topuria right now has quite literally his fellow MMA comparison right now, I would put as Chito Vera right before he fought Sean O'Malley. And I think Ilia Topuria has a very strong chance of beating Bryce Mitchell in a very dominant way. I don't want to say dominant, but I'm just saying in a very convincing way, because this man's no slouch on the ground. Don't fucking play. And that man's stand up, second to none. So, man, tough fucking fight. I could see Bryce Mitchell getting it done. I could see Ilia getting it done. It's one of those fights I don't bet on, because I think it's going to be too fucking close. I kind of like when one fighter's just supposed to win by so dominant of a performance. I'm always betting the opposition, because if it's 4-1, 3-1, anything higher than that, like, boy, I'm throwing $10 in, hopefully winning 50, 60, $70 back, and if not more sometimes. So, but shit. Outside of that, I'm looking forward to Bryce Mitchell camo shorts. I'm excited for this fight card. Like I said, I'm pretty sure we got a bunch of names on here. Eric Silva's 9-1, not starting the night off, but he's on the early prelims. Fuck, the early prelims have Alexander the Great Hernandez as he takes on Billy Quarantillo. Like, that fight right there is probably a main event in the last couple of months if they got put on one of those fight night cards that have been absolute just dog shit. But then we got Edmund Shabazian coming back after a couple tough losses in a row. Couple years being real ugly. Chris Curtis, Joaquin Buckley, Jairzinho Rosenstrike. Like, this fight card is going to be pretty wild. But this, as always, Stephen Moustaris, 5th round. Let's go, baby.